Happy Black History Month, y'all. This is one of my favorite times of the year and one of my favorite topics whenever it comes to books. Today, I'm going to be sharing with all of you my 3 must-read books for Black History Month. Let's do this. All right, so my husband thinks that I'm pretty corny, but if you've been on my BookTube channel for a while now, you already know this. So, I can pump that fist. I can do anything because it's Black History Month, y'all, and I am excited to share with all of you my 3 must-read books for Black History Month. I have to tell you guys, there are a plethora of books that I would recommend for Black History Month. However, there are 3 books in particular that I just think deserve your attention for this special month. And because I am a teacher by trade, I cannot do this video without giving you guys a snapshot of the history of Black History Month. I think that this is a month that you're going to find in BookTube world and Bookstagram a lot of recommendations for Black History Month must-read books. But I also think that it's equally important that everyone has a true sense and understanding and knowledge of the history of Black History Month. So a lot of Black folks complain and say, why do we have to have the shortest month of the year to celebrate Black History Month? And the reality is that was not the intention. It wasn't like we were intentionally given the shortest month of the year. So let me give you the full history, the timeline of Black History Month. So in 1915, the Association of the Study of Negro Life and History, which was co-founded by Carter G. Woodson, responded to the lack of information on the accomplishments of Black people available to the public by creating this association. In 1926, Negro History Week was created. This took place the second week in February to recognize the contributions of African Americans to U.S. history. This second week of February was chosen because it coincided with the birthdays of both Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. Fast forward to 1976, 50 years later, and former U.S. President Gerald Ford extended the recognition to be Black History Month as we know it. And this was to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. Fast forward to today, and the journey continues. Not only is Black History Month celebrated in the United States of America, other countries have joined the U.S. in celebrating Black people and their contribution to history and culture. Some of these countries include Canada, the United Kingdom, Germany, and the Netherlands. So with that in mind, Black History Month is very important. And yes, we should be celebrating Black history every single day. All cultures deserve to be celebrated every single day. And that's something that for me as an educator, I do strive to do as an educator and also as a parent and as an individual in society. I celebrate my history. I am proud of my history on a daily basis. With that being said, there is nothing wrong with taking a moment to be intentional about celebrating Black history. So I'm someone who is a huge lover of Black History Month. I am a true believer in the importance of Black History Month, and I want us to continue to recognize and honor and celebrate our history and know that Black history is American history. So I'm going to share with you 3 books that I consider to be must-read books whenever it comes to Black history and celebrating the Black experience. So coming in at number 3 is a book that is actually a recent read for me. And I have to tell you guys, this book immediately shot up to one of my all-time favorite reads, and it is The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. The subtitle is The Epic Story of America's Great Migration. And you guys, I was so deeply moved by this book, and I highly recommend that you not only have the actual hard copy, but that you also have the audiobook and that you listen to the audiobook following along with the hard copy. It was exquisite. Listening to it, the narrator was just, I was entranced. The narrator was perfect for this book. And the stories are amazing. The format, the style, the literary choices are just pure perfection and actually help you to really, truly, deeply understand and take yourself along on this journey of the Great Migration. So we're following three narratives, three individuals who participated in the Great Migration, and their stories are being told by the individuals themselves. So they sat down in interviews, countless hours of interviews with the author, and they start from the beginning of their lives, those formative years, and we follow them all the way through to the very end of their lives in a way that really helps you see how the Great Migration changed lives, and not just the lives of those who migrated, those Black individuals who migrated north from the South, but how it changed the lives of the generations to follow, generations like myself. It really helped me to self-reflect and explore my own history, my own family history, and how we came to be where we landed in West Virginia. I have family in Detroit, Michigan, family in Columbus, Ohio, and now I'm really wanting to know the story that brought us to where we are in life. So as I'm reading through some of the notes, the annotated notes that I have, I'm just thinking about how folks migrated, how our Black ancestors migrated. Some individuals had to be shipped in coffins and essentially play dead. So think of the sacrifices, leaving their families, how psychologically, emotionally taxing this was. It was more than just a decision to up and leave. You know, I think about us today in this day and age where if we want to move, yes, we're making some sacrifices to do that, but not at the depth that our ancestors, our Black ancestors, had to do. And so that was very moving. Also, I think about how younger generations ended up, you know, those younger generations of folks who moved, who migrated north and ended up being a part of the city life, how those younger generations of Black individuals who grew up in the city, they had their own sacrifices and their own struggles, but they were very, very different. So here's a quote where it says, "What did they know of the frustration of the young people who had grown up in the mirage of equality, but a whole different reality, in a densely packed world of drugs and gangs and disorder, with promises that seemed to have turned to dust?" Mm, mm, mm. Whew. Now that had me sitting in silence for a good long while, you guys, thinking about that one. So this book is just something that will stay with me. Every single word, every single narrative is going to stay with me for the rest of my life. It's one of those reads. My second recommendation for a must-read book for Black History Month is Homegoing. So Homegoing is written by Yaa Gyasi, and I just fell in love with her as an author and immediately purchased Transcendent Kingdom. I read this book in January of 2021, and it was my very first read of the year. And oh my goodness. So we're talking about two sisters, two African sisters. These African sisters are from West Africa, and they take two different paths in life. One sister marries a white man, I believe a British man to be specific. And I'm a little fuzzy because it's been a year, so hang in there with me. And the other sister is sold into slavery. So she aboards the ship and goes on that journey. And the book really follows these two individual women and the generations that followed them. That's the part that was so deeply moving to me, is watching the stories unfold, the lives unfold, the paths be traveled by these generations because of the moves that were made, the circumstances that occurred to these two individual sisters, two very different circumstances, two very different life paths, and how they impacted generations to come. You guys, this is going to be one of those booktube videos that I'm going to have to fight back the tears. I just wept. I wept at the end of The Warmth of Other Suns. I wept at the end of Homegoing because as a Black woman, I found myself reckoning with a lot of questions, a lot of emotions, a lot of racial trauma, and really going through this therapeutic journey with these books, finding answers in these books. And the way the story ends, mwah, chef's kiss. Pure magic matched with realism. It was magical, but it was also real. And it's also, for Black people, it's our story. It's so amazing. I just cannot say enough wonderful things about this book. And you get a history lesson, and you get historical fiction, you get drama, you get love, you get pain, you get family, like drama and trauma, all wrapped up into one book. It is simply a must read, as all of these books are today. You absolutely have to pick up this book if you haven't already. You guys. My number one must-read book for Black History Month is my favorite book of all time. I guess I could say the Bible is my favorite book of all time. And when we're talking about books aside from the Bible, this book is it for me, you guys. And it is The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson. I don't have a copy of this book on hand because it's at my childhood home. I have read this book a couple of times in my life, and it's actually been about 20 years since I read it last. And filming this video for BookTube is inspiring me to pick up the book again. I have the green copy of the book, so people who have a copy of The Miseducation of the Negro tend to ask each other, well, which cover you got? You know, like, which one do you have? And so I have the green copy. I'm going to probably purchase another one. And this is a book that I'm probably going to buy multiple copies of and just pass it along to folks. The Miseducation of the Negro is a must-read book. And let me tell you guys something. You don't have to identify as Black for this to be a must-read. In fact, I don't care what race you are. You need to read this book to understand the Black experience. This book was written in 1933. And when I tell you that this book could have been written yesterday, which you could take that as an unfortunate, or fortunately, we were gifted this gem to have with us to inform our experience, to enlighten ourselves. But that's just mind-blowing to me. So because I have all the feels about this book, I could ramble. And so I'm choosing to read the synopsis for you to give you a snapshot of what this book is about. The Miseducation of the Negro is one of the most important books on education ever written. Carter G. Woodson shows us the weakness of Eurocentric-based curriculums that fail to include African American history and culture. This system miseducates the African American student, failing to prepare them for success and to give them an adequate sense of who they are within the system that they must live. Woodson provides many strong solutions to the problems he identifies, a must-read for anyone working in the education field. And I think for Black Americans, it's a must-read for you, whether you're in the field of education or not. And I know I said it's for everyone to read, whether you're Black, white, Indigenous, Asian, whether you're from America or not. Particularly if you are a Black American, you must read this book. And also if you're an educator, you must read this book. This book it changed my life. I went from existing in the Black experience to living the Black experience through this book. Before reading this book as a Black American growing up and being very much the minority in the schools that I attended, I just realized after reading this book that I was existing. I was existing in a system that wasn't built for me, wasn't created for me. The structure was actually created to deculturalize people of color. And I just took it as this is the way I have to live my life. I didn't even think about it. I just existed in it. After reading this book, and interestingly enough, the last time I read the book, it was right before I think I started going to graduate school to become a school teacher. I started to make sense of myself. I started to make sense of education, the American education system. Things started making sense. The fact that it didn't make sense started making sense. I started understanding why certain things weren't jiving with me. Certain things didn't gel for me as a student, as a teacher, why certain things that I was being taught in ways of how to teach were not feeling good to me. It's a must read. And I will tell you this, you will want to do something about the education system after reading this book. You will want to do something. You will want to do things differently. And as a director of diversity, equity, and inclusion, I really have to say a lot of my work is informed by this book, The Miseducation of the Negro. You got to read it, you guys. I mean, this is a must-read video. Oh, you guys, I'm curious. What books do you consider must-reads for Black History Month? I would love to hear from you. I would love for you to share your recommendations in the comments. I would love for us to continue this conversation beyond this video in the comments on Bookstagram, wherever you find me, wherever we find each other. Let's continue this important conversation about books that we really want to immerse ourselves in and books we want to pass along to other people as well. And if you want to stick around, that would be awesome. Be sure to like the video, this video that you're watching right now. Just, tap that like or click on that like, subscribe, and ring that bell so that you can get notifications so that we can continue to stay connected. And I wish you the best. I wish you a month of learning, a month of growth, a month of enlightenment as you celebrate Black History Month. Peace.